What's the point? No, really, what is the point of all this? Why am I still subjecting myself to all of this hell after all of these years? Why don't I just live in peace watching good TV shows instead of torturing myself with garbage? Oh, wait, maybe it's because I can't even trust the good stuff in the end to not kick myself in the crotch and stab me in the back. I mean, how many times in these videos have I talked about great shows having just terrible endings? And you'd think that people would learn after all of these years, but nope! We ended up getting this! One of the best shows I've seen in a long time, having one of the absolute worst finales in all of TV history! Disney gets a lot of criticism nowadays, although that's pretty much been par for the course for at least the past 30 years. But if there's one thing they've still been consistently good at, it's animated television. The company that helped save TV cartoons in the 1980s has pretty much done it again in the past decade, with shows featuring incredible characters and stories that would rival even some of the most highly regarded shows made in the Far East. And right up there, near the top of the list, was Star vs. the Forces of Evil. One of the most insane, original, out-of-this-world, brilliant animated shows to come out in any time. Star vs. is the show we never knew we wanted. It's basically, hey, did you want Disney to make their own parody of Magical Girl anime? Well, guess what? They did it anyway. And it's glorious. The formula Star vs. used may have been previously done in shows like Gravity Falls and even Adventure Time, but it's like Darren Nefsey and her creative team took it to another level. From crafting a long-range storyline that so amazingly mirrors our own world history, despite it being in a sword and sorcery setting, to referencing everything from Sailor Moon to Mary Poppins to freaking Strawberry Shortcake, this was a show that seemed to have something for everybody, and blended crazy comedy with deep storytelling amazingly. But at the end of it all, when its 4-year run came to an end, it left so many asking, how could a show so brilliantly written right up to the very end come to such a car crash of a finale? Well, in order to explain why, I'm going to have to take you back to the beginning and explain all of the important details as quickly as possible. So grab your popcorn and maybe a notebook to keep track of everything. Here's the Cliff Notes version of Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Star Butterfly is the crown princess of the magical kingdom of Muni. And yes, it is essentially shown that the crown and royal lineage in this world are passed down primarily through the women. If you have a problem with that, you're really not gonna like what else happens in this series. But Star is essentially sent into exile to Earth, where she is made to go to school in a small California town and is taken in by the Diaz family, where she quickly befriends the son Marco. This is all because her parents seem to believe that sending Star to another world is the only way she can learn to control her magic powers and the use of the royal magic wand, which is being pursued by this evil, crazy bird thing named Ludo. Along the way, we meet other characters, like Star's BFF Ponyhead, a princess even more out of control to the point where she's banished to the reform school for princesses called St. Olga's, which is run by a cruel head mistress named Miss Heinous, who Star, Marco, and the imprisoned princesses eventually overthrow. We also meet Star's more or less magical guide, a little fairy gnome thing called Glossary, who lives in her family's spell book. Ludo eventually enlists the services of a lizard man with Deadpool powers named Toffee, who of course overthrows Ludo and takes over. Then he captures Marco in order to try and get Star not to give him her wand, but to destroy it. But her apparent destruction of the tiny unicorn that powers the wand seems to destroy Toffee in the process, and then another unicorn just shows up and repowers the wand. That leads into Season 2, which is mostly important for two things. 1. The introduction of characters like the Magic High Commission, as well as Star's hero, a nutcase former warrior of Muni named Mina, who is not at all a parody of a certain anime magical girl who shall remain nameless. 2. Star's revived wand having all sorts of problems, while Ludo appears to get his own wand from the crystal half that broke off of the original wand. It's eventually revealed that Toffee's spirit or something was absorbed into the crystal and is thus now corrupting the wand and eventually possesses Ludo, who by now has also gotten hold of Star's spell book. The season ends with Star's mother, Moon Butterfly, taking her away from Marco just as she was to confess her feelings towards him. This was the bridge into a made-for-TV movie called The Battle for Muni, which Disney Plus now posts as making up the first 7 or so episodes of Season 3. It centers around Toffee's plan to not just take over Muni, but end all of magic by getting Ludo to destroy the spell book, and supposedly Glossaric with it, then by contaminating the very source, the actual realm where magic power is created. But even without the book, Star matures into her one-winged angel form and is able to blast Toffee away for good. However, destroying Toffee for good releases someone that most of Muni considers an even greater threat. Star and Moon's ancestor, Queen Eclipsa, who wrote the supposedly darkest pages of the spell book and was imprisoned in crystal many years ago. Moon made a deal with Eclipsa just after she became queen to give her a spell that would break Toffee's invincibility, but at the price that Eclipsa would be completely free once Toffee was destroyed. Moon only succeeded in driving Toffee and his army away all those years ago by breaking off one finger, thus preventing the deal from being fully completed, but once Star takes him out for good now, Eclipsa is free. It's eventually revealed that her spell creations may not have been the reason Eclipsa was imprisoned. That was because she was having an affair with a monster named Globgor, which led to them having a daughter named Meteora. Believing the people of Muni would never accept a human-monster hybrid as the next queen, the Magic High Commission had the baby swapped with a human child named Festiva, who inherited the throne. What happened to Meteora? She became Miss Heinous, the headmaster of the St. Olga's Princess Reform School. Upon discovering this, Star realizes that she and her mother were never the true heirs to the throne, and sure enough, having now discovered who she really is, Meteora is out to claim the throne for herself. To sum this up, Season 3 ends with Eclipsa having to stop Meteora by using one of her dark spells that reverts Meteora back to an infant. And then Star, who had become acting queen due to Moon disappearing, relinquishes the wand and control of the kingdom to Eclipsa and her bloodline. Season 4 first focuses on both Star and Moon trying to figure out what to do with their lives now that they're no longer royalty, while Eclipsa works towards Star's dream of uniting the humans and monsters. Only it's pretty clear it's not going smoothly, and much of the kingdom doesn't trust Eclipsa. Especially after it's revealed that Globgor is still alive and crystallized as well, until he is mysteriously freed also. It's ultimately revealed that not only has the Magic High Command been conspiring to set up Eclipsa, but Mina has been secretly working to rebuild the kingdom's ancient anti-monster army, the Solarian Warriors, with the purpose of, well, pretty much staging a coup on the kingdom. And it's revealed someone Star trusted was helping Mina all along. There have been people online who have claimed much of seasons 3 and 4 are where the problems with the show really started to develop. But honestly, I didn't see it that way. Watching season 3 and most of season 4, I thought I saw the exact message the showrunners were trying to tell. The storyline continued to get deeper and even more thought-provoking, with comparisons to real-world politics and social issues that were both beautiful and frightening all at the same time. The ending to season 3 was one of the best story arc conclusions I've ever seen. The build-up makes it clear that Meteora was unjustly denied her birthright solely because of what she was, but that she still went about the wrong way to claim what was hers. When her own mother Eclipsa finally takes her out, this shows Star that Eclipsa was also unjustly persecuted and denied what was hers, and thus she makes the hard decision of giving up her throne to someone who never deserved to lose it in the first place. Watching season 4, I was really scared that the writers would eventually take the cheap way out and reveal, surprise, surprise, that Eclipsa and Globgor were evil all along. Thankfully, that never happened, and it's firmly established that the real threats are Mina and the people of Muni, who cannot get over their pure, unjustified hatred of the monsters. Right up to the penultimate episode, this show had me firmly engrossed as to what was going to happen. But there's an old saying in sports, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And this was animated TV's equivalent of the Atlanta Falcons blowing a 25-point lead in the Super Bowl. Or when the Rangers... Don't say it! So let's finally get into the finale of Star versus the Forces of Evil and see how it completely fell apart. Now, when I say I'm reviewing the finale, I'm actually reviewing the final 2 episodes of the series. Or 3, kind of. Yeah, the next to last show, like most of them before, has 2 episodes. I'm still not really sure if it counts as 2 separate episodes or not when shows do that. Anyway, the episode Pizza Party opens with this backstory piece on how Mina was appointed to the royal army by Eclipsa's mother, Queen Solaria, after she drove off a spider monster whose nest a group of humans built a village on top of. Again, I really will try to keep political talk out of this review, but I will just reinforce this. If you don't like political and social undertones in your cartoons, you're gonna have a bad time with this show. To be honest, I'm kinda surprised I never heard a fraction of complaints about this show as I did with the She-Ra remake. Also, carrying your baby around while in battle? What the frack? The concept of babysitting does exist in Muni. There have been episodes made around it. But yeah, the whole war between the humans and the monsters, it's hinted here that it really ramped up during Queen Solaria's rule. We then go back to where the previous episode left off, where Moon Butterfly admits to Star that Mina has been working for her all along. She claims she was trying to keep Mina from doing worse, but of course she blames Eclipsa for what happened to her, getting lost in the realm of magic and losing her memory. So naturally, she was behind the conspiracy to make the people of Muni distrust Eclipsa. In fact, we later find out that she was the one who instructed Romulus, oh yeah, he's the High Commission member who has the crystallization powers, to set Globgor free, in addition to helping Mina rebuild the Solarian warriors. Not surprising, Star does not take any of this well. But Moon says she wants to make a deal. If Eclipsa hands back the crown and the wand to the Butterfly family, she'll allow Eclipsa, Globgor, and Meteora the chance to live out their lives in another dimension. Of course, this isn't acceptable for Mina. She wants nothing less than killing Eclipsa and her whole family. And guess what? Moon can't do anything to stop Mina and the Solarian warriors because the vow they pledged to Solaria is stronger than Moon's magic. Looks like you didn't think things through, bitch! Star, Moon, Marco, and Eclipsa are all saved by Hekapoo opening a portal underneath them, which I'm still not sure how because I thought the portals weren't working anymore. And she leads everyone to the place the second episode of this show is named after. The Tavern at the End of the Multiverse. Ha! Much of this episode shows Mina planning to have the remaining monsters all executed, the ones she wounded in battle hiding out but getting worse and worse from their wounds, including Globgor, and our heroes hiding out in a seedy bar at the end of reality itself. And it's here that Star finally realizes the source of all her problems.
I hate magic.
What?
Magic's the worst, and the people that use it are idiots.
What?
No more magic, no more butterflies.
What the what? So yes, this is Star's ultimate plan. She is going to put an end to magic for good. Linkara once said, in a good story, you're mad at the villain. In a bad story, you're mad at the creator. And I can't think of a better example of both than how this series came to an end. Right up to the end of Pizza Party, I was livid at exactly the right characters. Moon for betraying her own daughter to try and get her crown back, all because of her hatred of Eclipsa and ignorant bigotry toward the monsters. The Magic High Command for celebrating the supposed return to humans dominating over the monsters. And of course, Mina for being the absolute worst and demanding nothing but execution of all monsters. I was angry, but I got that I was supposed to be angry and wanted to see Star ultimately put everyone in their place. Instead, the story just goes completely off the rails and a cliff at the same time! There is no good reason for Star to suddenly up and blame magic for everything that has ever gone wrong! It was never hinted that magic and using magic is wrong! To make this even crazier, when Star confronts Glossaric with her plan, he sends her to the Grandma Room, where all the tapestries of Queens past and present are hung, where she sees this.
My tapestry. It's finished. Oh, my. I actually destroyed the magic?
How does it show you destroying the magic? You are seen using magic in the very picture! But no, the important part here is that Marco is nowhere to be seen in the picture, suggesting that if Star destroys magic, Marco will go back to Earth and they'll never see each other again.
But that's not fair. Plus, that doesn't even make sense.
Even the script is admitting this doesn't make sense! Only adding in supposed necessary sacrifice and pain Star must endure for doing the right thing and all that bull honky. And as for that supposed sacrifice, remember it.
I guess this means Toffee was right.
How? How the frack does this mean Toffee was right? When he said Star needed to destroy her wand back at the end of season 1? You do know that had you destroyed magic back then, Toffee and his lizard men would have been completely unstoppable with their regeneration powers, right? And they weren't among the good monsters. They would have killed all the humans, even the ones who don't hate monsters. Toffee and the lizards were the monster equivalent to Mina and the Solarian warriors. I really don't like trying to rewrite other people's works. I mean, what am I, Kathy Bates in Misery or something? But within just a couple hours of completing this series, I couldn't help but come up with another possible ending that would have worked far better. So Star realizes she has to find a way to become more powerful enough to break Mina's bond. She takes back possession of the Royal Magic Wand and the spell book, the latter of which, yes, was restored after Eclipsa found the last surviving piece of it that Star had hidden away. She then uses Marco's dimensional scissors to go to the one place where she would have the time she needs. The Neververse in Hekapoo's home world, where it's established time moves faster than in Muni, but you return from there having been restored to the age you were when you left. Almost like how the wardrobe worked in the Chronicles of Narnia. After just a few minutes gone in Muni time, Star returns having spent several years learning every spell in the book and using that knowledge to create her own spells more powerful than even Eclipsa's or Solaria's. And she uses that power to both completely destroy the Solarian army for good and grant the power of magic to the monsters. Which should be in some way possible since even Marco had been shown to be able to use the wand despite him not being from Muni. With the Solarians ended and the monsters now on equal footing with the humans, Star has the monarchy completely renounced and Muni put under the rule of the people's choice, who pick Eclipsa. Mina and Moon are imprisoned for life, and Star leaves Muni to live happily ever after on Earth with Marco. The end! Boom! The good guys get what they want, the bad guys get what they deserve, and it's done in a manner that brings as many plot elements from the series together as possible. But what did we get instead? In the final episode, Cleaved, Star makes good on her vow and travels with Marco to the realm of magic so she can recite the whispering spell that will negate magic power or poison it to death or something like that. Of course, there's still a big problem in that if you stay in the realm of magic too long, you lose your mind and become a babbling simp with the attention span of a 3-year-old. But it's here when they finally discover that the secret to protection from the realm's effect is eating pudding. Pudding! Yeah, I get it shows that there was a reason Glossaric was always eating the stuff, but whatever. Then Star's ex-boyfriend Tom shows up, completely kooky puts from himself being stuck in the realm for so long. They give him pudding and he's fine again. I'll talk more about Tom and his it's complicated status with Star and Marco later. And then Moon, Eclipsa, and the ghosts of all the queens past show up to aid Star in the spell. Yep, they just all decide to go along with it. I mean, I guess it can be interpreted as all of them deciding to make up for all the wrong they've done over their history, but again, could they have all just showed up to aid Star in casting some big spell to destroy Mina? Would make a lot more sense to me! Then Mina finds her way to the realm via the magic sanctuary, and she and all these corrupted dark unicorns try to stop them, but they're too late, and eventually the tiny unicorn in the wand creates a hurricane that poisons the rest of the magic, and oh god night! Star says set a rainbow on fire twice in the pilot episode, and only now this show is making my brain atrophy! As magic begins to come to an end, Star has to go back through the well to Muni while telling Marco to take the well that leads to Earth, but of course both of them go back for the other and are trapped in the realm as it all comes tumbling down, and then Star wakes up on Muni and Marco wakes up on Earth, so that whole previous scene was pointless. I think it was. Yeah, it's not over yet, folks. Just wait. So the butterflies are back on their home world, and what happens to Mina in the meanwhile? She's allowed to escape into the woods with a whole "this isn't over" declaration. Never gets retribution for her actions. Damn it, where's Mr. Louisville when I need him? Oh, and the Magic High Commission has been completely annihilated because of magic being destroyed. This means, one, I guess there is a difference between monsters and magical creatures, the latter of which every member of the commission was, but two, by default, every creature created from or living off of magic now no longer exists. As if Star snapped the Infinity Gauntlet on all magical creatures. Except that's somehow not what happened, because Ponyhead, you know, the literal severed head of a unicorn that is not only alive but flies and floats everywhere, is somehow still around. So destroying the magic killed every magical creature but her? This whole thing makes less sense than how it was decided who stayed and who was erased in Crisis on Infinite Earths! And of course, as others on places like TV Tropes have suggested, this doesn't even take into account how many other worlds that relied on magic are now completely crippled with no one around there to possibly know how to adjust anytime soon. Hell, we don't even know if Star had an adjustment plan here. Yeah, think about what Professor Farnsworth did to the dark matter supply in Bender's game, then multiply it times infinity plus 9,000. And then, after all of that, after everything that happened in just those last 2 episodes, stuff that would make even those who watched this show passionately from the moment Star was first given the magic wand would have their brains turning cartwheels trying to figure out how any of it makes any sense at all. The last 5 minutes of the series, well...
What? Come on, DS! Come on! Hey. Hi.
What? There are so many different ways this final scene could be interpreted, and none of them are any good! I first guessed what happened was the portal sent Star and Marco to some type of hybrid dimension where humans and monsters live together. Or that maybe the portals exploding killed both of them and they're now in the afterlife together. Much like people interpret the final post-credit scene in Titanic. However, according to sources I either found myself or was directed to by others after watching the episode, here's supposedly what happened. Star and Marco being together in the realm of magic at the very end of it caused one final portal link between Earth and Muni, which is what allowed them to escape the destruction and end up where they supposedly each belong. The portal was still open when they both awoke, but was closing fast, and them standing next to it caused the portal to explode and merge Earth and Muni together! Oh yeah, Star! You thought getting humans and monsters to live in peace was work? Good luck with this one! And that's it! That's the ending! It just stops like that with so many people left asking how, why, and what was the point? You want to know the really sad kicker to all of this? I loved just about everything from this series, including season 4. I'm not one of those Star Versus fans who's critiquing every little minutia of the series or even the final episodes. Everything that happened for me either made sense or was not important enough to make a snit over right up until Star said, "I hate magic." Yeah, I liked seeing Ludo find redemption through reuniting all of his brothers. I even liked where the shipping went. Seeing Marco and Tom become buds even after Star pretty much left Tom for Marco. Yes, believe it or not, I didn't mind that Star and Marco would end up together in the end. Because unlike other ships that pissed me off in other shows, this felt genuine. These were two people who had been friends for a long time and always cared for one another, and it blossomed into something bigger. A lot of the backlash from others seems to come from people who didn't like the Starco shipping and accused the showrunners of sacrificing the rest of the story in order to get the shipping resolution they wanted. To me, that's a lazy excuse. There were so many other ways the writers could have crafted a finale to this series that still could have ended with Star and Marco together. They did not have to literally destroy the source of so many people's livelihoods and then somehow make up for it with an ending that violated every law of space, time, and physics in order to get that. Starco is not what pisses me off. What pisses me off is they still had a story right in their hands that was perfectly explaining how mistrust and hatred of those who are different than you is what causes so many of the universe's problems, and then they completely crapped the bed by saying, nope, it's all the fault of resources. If we take away resources, people will be forced to all get along. I could give myself CTE from how much wall banging that deserves. This was the worst ending to a TV series since Xena decided she had to die. Yes, I'm marking this as even worse than Game of Thrones. In that show's case, the showrunners were adapting another person's work and were then backed into a corner when the originator failed to complete the original work in time, and they were forced to continue the story on their own and pull an ending out of their butts. This was a completely original work where the creators knew exactly how much time they had to work with, and when it came to pulling a grand finale on all of it, it's like they just quit. But you know what? That's pretty much been my life. Everything I've loved letting me down. Alf, Xena, Quantum Leap, the Nostalgia Critic, and so many other internet personalities I looked up to. My theater school shutting down. My goddamn sports teams. In the end, everyone makes it clear that they just don't care, so why should I? Fuck everything! God damn it! You know, it's almost unreal as to how much has changed these past 10 years. In 2010, my life was probably at its highest point. I had a work-at-home job that allowed me to sustain myself without 9-to-5 pressures. The baseball team I'd been a fan of since I was a teenager. They won a pennant for the first time ever. And I started a website and a stupid little review show, having been inspired by so many others like it. Now we're all stuck in this seemingly inescapable hellscape. We're all living in fear of everything and hatred of everyone. I bounced back and forth for years at minimum wage jobs until it was certain that staying in them was affecting my physical and mental health. And now here I am in my 40s, living on the aid of my family, knowing there are millions out there who don't have the fortune that I do, and feeling guilty about it all the time. I've lost the passion for a lot of my pastimes, like sports and even wrestling, because I've just seen how toxic and vicious the fans of those pastimes can be. Many of my friends and colleagues had to end their review shows for various reasons. A number of the people that inspired me to become an internet reviewer, they've been revealed to not be the good people we thought they were. Even some of those who've kept at it have recently asked if the whole angry reviewer internet fad was a mistake. And yet I keep doing this. I just find myself continuing to do this, and sometimes I have to ask myself, why do I? Well, why did you start doing it in the first place? Because I wanted to entertain people, I guess. I guess that's what I've always enjoyed doing. The theater school, dancing around in all those ball games in that full uniform and everything. I guess it was just all I wanted to entertain people. I wanted to make them happy. Are you still entertaining people now? Are people still watching your videos? I suppose. So if even just one person is enjoying your work, aren't you making them happy? Wouldn't that alone be worth it? I promise I'll never try to destroy the magic. Because you people are the magic. You're the magic to me. This year's been terrible for a lot of us. And I can't say next year will be any better. But I'll do everything in my power to make it as tolerable for you as I possibly can. Because you deserve it. Every single one of you who's watched my videos, even if you saw the first time I posted Stripperella, to anyone who's just tuned into this video for the very first time to see me, you're the magic. And I'm gonna try and keep the magic going. See you next year on TV Trash.